Hello, everyone, and welcome to Live with CXPA. I'm Gabe Smith, CCXP. I am the content manager for the Customer Experience Professionals Association. I'm so happy to welcome you today as our conversation will be in celebration of International Women's Day. So I know, just looking at my LinkedIn feed, there is a ton of fantastic events that are taking place on LinkedIn as well as elsewhere. So we're so glad that you carved out some time in your Monday to spend some time with us. So as we get started, would love to hear from you. Drop us a note in the comments, letting us know where you are in the world, where you're watching from as we come together. Want to hear from you. And we'll be taking your questions and featuring your comments during today's broadcast. So make sure that throughout, you let us know your thoughts in the comments section. So we have an amazing panel of women from around the world who are going to be joining us for today's discussion, including our moderator for today's conversation, Crystal Montague, CCXP. Hey, Crystal.
Hello, Gabe, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Crystal, it's so great to see you. So great to have you here. I just want to share with the audience a little bit about you and your background because I know that you are a champion for the customer. You connect people and processes to identify areas to leverage and improve performance. I know that's your passion. I'll just share a little bit about your bio here with the audience. In Crystal's role as an associate director of customer experience and insights at S&P Global, she's responsible for the global customer experience and insights program, transforming the company to a customer-centric culture and developing strategies to drive business growth. She has extensive professional experience in the areas of CX, business and product development, project management, utilizing Six Sigma methodologies to drive operational excellence. You're a CCXP and a member of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for CXPA. You've got a BA in Psychology and Markets and Management Sciences from Duke University and an MBA in Marketing. You can really do it all, Crystal. God, my goodness, that's an awesome background.
Thank you, Gabe.
Crystal, I was just reflecting before this conversation on the fact that my career in CX has been shaped by and uplifted by strong women leaders. And I was thinking about the fact that prior to joining CXPA in a staff role, I'd actually never had a man as manager. I've
Mhm.
had women managers my entire career, so I'm really interested and excited in learning from these women today to understand the challenges and opportunities that women face in CX and how men can help as well. But I want to hear from you. Like, what are you interested in learning about today as you moderate this panel?
Absolutely, Gabe. I know, same for me. Starting out with my career, I've had an interesting career journey where it's pretty much led me to having this passion for customer experience. And I'm so interested to hear from some of these other female leaders to understand how did their journey start, what makes a great leader when it comes to customer experience in particular, as well as what are the challenges that we all face as women and how can we overcome those challenges, especially on International Women's Day, in which we're talking about this year's theme on how can we all choose to challenge. So I'm really excited to hear from all of them and just listen and learn today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited as well, and I want to listen from who is joining us and where they're joining us from. So just to give a cross section, we've got Hani joining us from Saudi Arabia. We've got Lama joining us from Palestine. We've got Onabule joining us from Nigeria. And apologies to all for anyone whose name I mispronounced. Alexandria from Brazil. We have Wilma from South Africa. Gustavo from Mexico. We have Turkey. We have Athens, Poland, France.
Wow.
I love seeing the global enthusiasm, the global diversity that we
Yeah.
always have on these broadcasts.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm so excited to even introduce our panelists who are also from several areas without the whole globe. I'll actually go ahead and get them started. So, again, everyone, thank you
Yeah,
again for joining from all over. This is going to be an exciting panel. I know, as I said, I'm very excited to moderate this panel.
and
Um,
Crystal, I'm going to jump backstage and let you do your thing. So
sure.
I'll be handling questions as they come in. So get those questions in as we go. But I'm going to hop backstage and listen.
Thanks, Gabe. All right, so let's go ahead and get started and introduce our first panelist. Our first panelist actually comes from Jordan. Her name is Olga Budieri. She is the global head of customer experience at Dubai-based International Express, mail delivery and logistics service company RMX International. Olga's decade-long experience in logistics has equipped her with a laser focus on customer needs. And in 2020, she founded her own training initiative based in Jordan, Customer Experience by Olga, in which she is really on a mission to ignite the passion for customer experience in the Arab region. Olga is highly experienced in transformation programs, experience redesign, voice to the customer, journey management, and orchestration, as well as strategic planning to uplift B2B as well as B2B experience programs. Starting off with a degree in industrial engineering, Olga has moved on to get an MBA in management, as well as many qualifications in account management, strategy, and customer experience. She is Jordan's only certified customer experience professional. Olga is passionate about customer experience thought leadership, value co-creation, and mentoring women's rights advocacy. So thank you, Olga, for joining us today.
Thank you, Crystal, and thank you, Gabe, and the CXPA. Hello, everyone.
Next, we have Allison Circle, who is our Chief Customer Experience Officer for Columbus Metropolitan Library and has more than 25 years of marketing, branding, and design experience. A little bit more about Allison's background as the Chief Customer Experience Officer for the last 8 years of the library's experience and strategy through all channels of the organization. And she's also developed Columbus Metropolitan Library award-winning customer first philosophy, which drives Columbus Metropolitan Library's customer-facing approach. She also leads programming, experience, and design for the library's new building program. She is an on-demand speaker on issues of libraries, customer experience, and design. In 2017, she was chosen for a Global Impact Award from the Customer Experience Professionals Association. She is a certified customer experience professional, and in 2018 was elected to the International Board for CXPA. Prior to joining Columbus Metropolitan Library, Allison served as a National Marketing Director for Minnesota Public Radio, then was Creative Director and Account Director at Jack Morton Worldwide, which is a global branding agency. In 2004, she joined CML as the Director of Marketing and Strategic Planning. And then in 2012, she was promoted to the Chief Customer Experience Officer, where she serves on the executive leadership team and oversees 23 library locations and staff. Welcome, Allison, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Crystal. And hey, happy International Women's Day.
Yes, happy International Women's Day to everyone. Next, our panelists, we have Aditi Garg, who is, again, a certified customer experience professional as well, and has worked at different aspects of brand and marketing over the last 14 years. In her current role, she heads strategy for South and West for Carat India as part of the Dentsu Group. And that really involves embedding customer centricity in media strategy and planning. As part of the founding team at Tata Sports Sons, she is really focused on uncovering deep, actionable insights on mega trends like digital, premiumization across different sectors. And she also co-created roadmaps with the chief experience officers for group companies to adopt premiumization. In her entrepreneurial ventures, she's created a customer experience audit for silver consumers, those who are age 60 and above. And that's really focused on how we can further advance their communications, online, retail, sales, and product usage for brands, and conduct syndicated research studies on megatrends like coping mechanisms during a lockdown, which, as we were all discussing earlier today, we cannot believe we're now almost 1 year from when we all went into lockdown. All of Aditi's stints have been characterized by something that's out of the box, from being part of a cinema launch to organizing a Shark Tank-like contest for Tata brands on premiumization, to writing articles on the Indian economy and stock market for her company's monthly magazine. She's also watched a movie in most major cinemas in North, South, and West India for work, which is actually a really cool thing. Aditi stays in Mumbai with her 2 kids, Dakshi and Anya, and her husband, Pratik. She's a firm believer of behavioral economics, and she has an economics degree from Saram College of Commerce and a master's in social sciences from the National University of Singapore. Thank you, Aditi, and welcome. Last but not least, we have Stacy Sherman. Stacy is dedicated to humanizing business and leading with a heart. She's on a mission to create and inspire better experiences so that real connections and satisfaction exist. Stacy does not just talk about it. She is really about it. She takes action and applies proven methodologies every day as the Director of Customer Experience and Employee Engagement at Schindler Elevator Corporation, and she was formerly a CX leader at Verizon. In Stacy's spare time, she's mentoring, speaking, and writing for Forbes, and blogging about her heart and the science of customer experience, also known as DoingCXRight. Thank you, Stacy, for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you again. And let's just go ahead and get started. This is a really exciting panel, so I cannot wait to hear from all of you myself. So one of the things that we've talked about, we've all gone through our bios, is really how we formalize our careers in customer experience. The idea of customer experience is relatively new, and with many leaders building on former experiences in areas such as business process management, relationship management, marketing, and branding, I would like each of you to please take a moment to just discuss your career journey and how did you get involved in customer experience. So let's start with Allison.
Thank you, Crystal. I'm really honored to be here today with this incredible group of women. I think what we are going to learn today is all of us have a different route to get to the whole CX journey. Myself, my goal when I was a young woman was to be an English professor. And I was in graduate school to do that, working on my PhD, and had enough. Went from the ivory tower to the grittiness of the streets. I worked at a rape crisis center for 5 years. After that, working at Minnesota Public Radio, which is the largest public broadcaster in the United States, and actually working globally around that, creating emotional experiences and connections to our audiences. From there, went to work in experiential branding. There's in all of these steps, there's a consistent theme about telling a story. And in my case, most of it's really around an emotional story. Working at the library, which in 2004 was going to be a 2-year transition job, which I am now almost in 17 years of working there. But having an extraordinary CEO who saw a lot in me, that helped giving me the opportunities, and when there was a vacancy at the executive level, we created this position called Chief Customer Experience Officer. I think everything I'd done was that, but it hadn't been called that. So building that out and really honestly, my very first step was to join the CXPA, and it has been a great guide for me as we've continued to build an emotional connection, both in our team, and what's really exciting for me is I've been able to do that in design with building 14 new libraries.
Thank you, Allison. Fascinating story. Olga, would you mind sharing your experience?
Definitely. I second Allison's point in terms of how everyone has a unique route to customer experience. I started off in consulting, actually. It was a very brief stint in management and urban planning consulting, fresh out of the engineering specialization. And then I moved to Aramex, and all of the cool kids were going to operations, they were going to quality control, they were going to logistics. And I ended up in what we called at the time customer service. And we had just started a team that oversaw globally as a center of excellence, processes, training, developing customer experiences for our branches and offices around the globe for Aramex International. So it really was basically CX way before it was cool. And over the next few years, we took over social media management, engagement, service centers, and just the whole customer experience management piece. And as the field evolved globally, I felt that this was a parallel of how my own personal career and my own route to customer experience was evolving. So today, I oversee customer experience for B2B, B2C experience design, strategy, voice of customer, journey mapping, management, under the umbrella of the commercial team, and closely with the chief commercial officer, who owns the growth strategy for Aramex and oversees our very, very ambitious plans to go into 2025. Over the past year, it has been very, very interesting because we are separated in a sense that I'm based in Jordan and the rest of my team is based in Dubai. So it has been very, very interesting to see how we can collaborate and co-create. And in a way, just doing all of those things remotely showed us that you can do journey mapping, you can do co-creation. We've been actually on workshops with clients where we've been building journeys together, designing products live, and it just added that sense of informality. So I love it. And this was sort of the evolution of my career as well. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'm excited to learn from everyone else as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Olga. Yeah, it is amazing how this last year has really transformed how we all work. And, especially as we think about the future, how we plan on working, continuing, moving forward. All right, Stacy, let's hear from you about your journey.
Yes, thank you. So I was always in sales and marketing as a career. And all of a sudden, I feel like it was all of a sudden, I was working at Verizon years back, and e-commerce and digital marketing and all that my boss said, CX, voice of customer, VOC and CX, there's this big thing happening. They threw me the ball and said, catch it, run with it. And I'm like, well, what does this all mean? And the boss at the time said, I don't know, go figure it out. And so I did. Honestly, I didn't like the answer at the moment, go figure it out without the help, but it changed me and my approach as a leader. And now I figure everything out with excellence. So I would just say I fell into it and I stuck with it. I've made it my intentional focus every day. And not only is it customer experience, but it's also employee experience too. They go hand in hand. And so that's how I started, and I made a conscious choice to stick with it.
Perfect. Thank you. And last but not least, Aditi, if you wouldn't mind sharing your journey into customer experience.
Yeah, sure. I think after hearing all the interesting journeys, I'm feeling quite overwhelmed. And I think my journey is slightly similar to the rest of the journeys that were just mentioned. But I think for me, I started out as a researcher. I always wanted to be in marketing, and research was something that I was excited about right since my university days. A lot of research projects that I did in my master's. I think I liked that fact of starting from the ground zero, then building up the whole thing, investigating, and not being satisfied with just knowing one part of the story. So I think from there, I got into qualitative research, and that actually was the best grounding you can get as a marketer, is to start listening to consumers, doing ethnography, doing field work, actually listening to what consumers are saying. So I think I've been very fortunate that to begin with, that is how I started my journey. Pardon my daughter jumping at the back. So that's part of the women choose to challenge.
I just want to say, I think that's awesome.
Absolutely.
She wanted to dress up because she thought she's also part of it. So yes, please
She's
pardon her
celebrating
jumping.
International Women's Day.
Truly. Okay. So with that research, and like I said, I always felt that you need to know all elements and all parts of the story. After the qualitative research, I moved on to academic research, to business research, to quantitative research. I spent about 3-4 years understanding all of that, the B2B research, and getting all these elements together. Now, how do you get quantitative research, qualitative research, and cultural trends, category trends, and then give one picture to the brand or the category to understand? I think I did that for some 6-7 years. And it's very interesting that in India, that's when I started noticing the shift that companies and brands have started talking about. So while they weren't terming it per se as customer journey or customer experience, everyone started saying that let's put a structure to this, let's put a process to it. These are our touch points. That conversation started happening in India about some 7-8 years back. So I was very lucky to have a very visionary boss in the cinemas brand that I spoke about in Reliance Media Works, where she was the one who actually explained to me that, this entire research that you're doing, we need to map it to the touch points of the consumer. And the right from the time the consumer steps out, and how do we advocate to him? How do we engage with him? So for me, that was something that was really interesting, that how do you go not just about understanding the brand itself or the category itself, but you also do a touch point mapping. And that's where my journey, I think, in customer experience really started. And from then on, I built, I think, my skill set. That's when you actually realize, and I think a lot of you might agree with me, that it's when you start doing these practical experiences, you realize the gaps in your education or the gaps in your own skill sets. So I went in for a lot of marketing courses, with Wharton and with Cornell, to just get up to speed with how they do it. What's the conversation around customer experience, around customer journey happening? And it was around that time actually that Tata Sons was also changing their entire narrative to becoming more customer centric. Because for them, the large part of the business actually comes from B2B, but they really felt the need to do a lot more for the B2C companies. A lot of their reactions were on default, but not at first that, okay, let's do consumer first. And I think the everything that I said gets encapsulated in even what happened there. We started with calling the Center for Customer Insights, and finally moved it to the Center for Customer Centricity. That journey itself and that understanding itself happened over some 6-7 months, and this really needs to be called. And I really agree with what Stacy says, because I think that's where the biggest gap is. You don't just build the customer experience, you really need to build the employee experience. I mean, that's the real meat of it. And that's where I got into CCXP also, because I read up a lot on CCXP and what it talks about. I was really interested in knowing the employee aspect. How do you change it in the organization? It's one thing to understand the consumer, but if within your organization you will not do it the way the customer is organized, or you will not talk about it within, if people don't understand, it will not get implemented. So I think that's the key thing even I would like to highlight on. You have to do the employee experience just as you do the customer experience.
Sounds great. Thanks, Aditi. All right. So now we've all talked about our journeys into customer experience, not just the importance of the customer journey, but our own journeys within customer experience. And so as part of our journey, it's really critical, as we know, to have several skill sets that we need. So Allison, I would like to ask you, when you're thinking about characteristics that we need as women, especially women in CX leadership, what do you think are some of the 3 characteristics about yourself that has really led you to success within business?
Had to unmute. Thanks, Crystal. And I think if you listen to everybody's story, there's consistent themes here, and flexibility, adaptability, willing to be open to these opportunities, to just be able to synthesize our life story into this opportunity. I think that's really important to me. I always talk about work is synthesis and then discipline. To me, that is one of the most critical pieces of my job. I can take it all in, but how do I zoom into what is really important? I also think a really important characteristic is the ability to just go for it and not hold ourselves back, to present this opportunity, figure it out. We have all figured it out. We have opened doors for people by figuring it out. So I would say this idea of discipline and synthesis, the ability to take a project or an opportunity by the horns and to really not be afraid. And I think the last one is to be willing to be patient and listen. Part of what I had to learn as a leader is I'm a driver and I want to get things done, but it was really important. Talk about staff. It was really important that all of our employees come along with me at the same time, and not to be out so far ahead that people don't understand what the heck we're trying to do. So really those 3 things.
Perfect. Thank you, Allison. So as we all said, today is International Women's Day, and in addition to, I want to celebrate all of you and all of your success, I want to take a moment and just really allow us the opportunity to celebrate a woman from our personal or professional experiences. I know for me, I like to celebrate my mom. My mom has been the driver for me, both personal and professionally. So she is one who I definitely celebrate today on International Women's Day. And so I just want to take a moment for all of you to have that opportunity to celebrate and acknowledge someone who has really impacted you personally and professionally for today. So Dee Dee, let's just start with you to see if there's someone who you would like to quickly acknowledge.
I think there have been many. There have been many women who have inspired me. And to begin with, I think some of the women I worked with very early, I mean, when I started my career, and they gave me some very vital advice. And I mean, there was Lakshmi Seth at Quantum, the first place I worked. And I think the good part about that is when you see women as role models in senior leadership who can do it, so that when you reach that position, you know how they balanced it and how they did it, and it can be done. I think the biggest message that I got from them and that I imbibed was that it can be done. And right till my Tata's job, when I saw women around me, right from like CMOs of Titan, I worked with the CMO of IHCL, and all of them, the Shalini Rao, she was a really inspiring lady for me there. And I saw that all of them were doing everything while managing their jobs. And they would take calls, they would work, and we would have flexible timings to work with each other. They would accommodate mine, I would accommodate theirs. That empathy was there. I think that's something I learned. And even now, when I work with my team and people with me, I make sure I follow that empathy, because I've been really lucky and really fortunate in all my jobs, whether it was Reliance and whether it was Tata Sons. And I would like to mention that I had very empathetic male leaders also, especially Harish Bhatt, who was the brand custodian. He was really, I think that empathy, some men have it, some women have it. Definitely, we're talking about women leaders. I've been fortunate to have that. And the biggest takeaway I've taken is that I must take it forward. My current leader, current CEO of Kara India, Anita Kotmani, she's another very, very empathetic leader. So I think that's something I've really taken from all of them is empathy.
Absolutely. I know in my current role, I've only been with my company for 7 months now, but I have amazing women that I work with. I'm so thankful to have that opportunity to work with so many amazing women in brand and customer experience. Next, let's get Allison, if you wouldn't mind sharing someone you would like to acknowledge today.
So other than my mom, like you, I always cite the woman who was my boss at Minnesota Public Radio. Her name was Chris Oshikata. And what she really taught me was that it was okay to be a woman and be fabulous at work. I was always a hard worker. I got the work done. She just came in and owned a room and led by her charisma. She was stunning and she strutted her stuff. And she was the first woman I ever worked with who did that. Everyone else, I think, was really trying to emulate men in the workplace. She was the first one who owned who she was proud of it, stood up straight, walked in and owned herself, her identity, and her own work. And I had the honor a couple of years ago, I hadn't seen her in a long time, but to tell her that. And it was really, an important person in my life who helped me understand that I could step into these leadership roles with confidence and assurity and still be who I am.
Perfect. Thank you, Allison. She sounds fascinating and amazing.
Gorgeous.
Olga, anyone from your area that you would like to acknowledge today?
Definitely. So keeping it short and sweet, the person that I'd like to acknowledge actually came to my life a bit later in my professional career. So it was, I think, three or 4 years back. So a little bit later into the career stage. I think the first few years I had an amazing boss, mentor, friend. He was the guy actually who recruited me in Aramex. And it was this just awesome work relationship. I would get what he needed and we would build the team together. But then he moved on and I got a new boss who was higher up basically in the corporate ladder, and he had different expectations. So I was always seeking and trying to understand, how do I build my capability, my character? How do I seek mentorship outside of that? And she was actually Barbie Fink, one of the first people I've met at the CXPA, and she was my mentor for about, I think, a year. I was still in touch from time to time, but it was this amazing relationship of where she was very generous with her time, always paying it forward, giving all of the insights, all of the sort of guidance, but also understanding enterprise, understanding large scale customer experience, power cores, how to play the game basically, but also not afraid to roll her sleeves up and actually do the work. So she understands the details, she understands the strategy, and it was just amazing to work with her over this project, which is me, over this whole basically year without seeing each other even. So it was basically a phone relationship. And then at the CXPA Insights Exchange in the US, the last one, basically, I got to meet her, and it was this amazing moment where I finally just sort of, it came together, everything with the conference, with the insights, and it was really brilliant and a huge step in my career and understanding. And that's also when I got the CCXP certification. So it was just awesome.
Great. Last but not least, Stacy, would you mind sharing someone who's influenced you?
Yes. So everybody said moms, but I have to say mom because my mom was one of the first women on the stock exchange. I spent my childhood on Wall Street, and I didn't really understand when I'd be on the floor with her why there was no women, very few. And so she was a change agent. She was all about Mission Possible. And so she's a role model beyond just raising me, but really showed me what it was like to get out of your comfort zone and show up and make a difference. So thank you.
Amazing. And Stacey, I'd like to follow up with you. You know, when we talk about these leaders who have influenced us personally and professionally, what do you think makes a great leader?
Oh boy, we don't have enough time for me to go into all my thoughts, but oh, so bottom line is, and I'm speaking to how I lead and how I learned from people who hadn't done it right too. And I believe that it's about encouraging people to provide a safe place physically and mentally for them to show up as their best self and pay attention so much that you know when your colleagues and boss and customers, anybody that you interact with, are off their game, and being clever enough to know how can you raise them based on their needs, not mine, theirs. And so leadership is really all the above. And here's the bottom line. There's roadblocks and challenges every day. It's part of life. But being there to help remove those barriers and support your people, that's what it's about.
Perfect. Thanks, Stacy. Now, I'd like to turn it over to the group. We're all members of CXPA, and we all have our Certified Customer Experience Professional designation. And I want to know, and for today, what, in all of your opinions, makes great customer experience? So if we could just all start with the group here. Olga, Stacy, if you could just share what you think makes a great customer experience.
You want to go first, Olga?
Whatever works for you.
Sure, you go first.
All right, thanks for that. I was just gonna say very briefly, although it sounds cliche, but understanding end-to-end journeys, understanding B2B versus B2C, associating it with strategy, with the brand promise, and connecting it with all of the growth factors and enablers internally, such as technology, operations, HR, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so I would say it's get the basics right. I mean, we all know very, very sophisticated ways of doing customer experience, but it's being proactive, communication, communicate. Can't say that enough. It's picking up the phone. It's letting people know they were heard. And especially for customers and our own employees, when they're waiting for an answer, pick up the phone, let them know, even if you don't have the answer, I haven't forgotten about you.
Mhm.
And so it get the basics right, and then move from there.
Perfect. Thanks, Stacy. I know as we talk about communication is so key with anything that we do. So I really want to turn it over to Aditi. As part of communication, one of the critical elements when we come to customer experience and overall experience management is having that ability to listen. And so really, when you're thinking about customer experience, being able to listen to your customers and identify those actionable insights based on a customer feedback is one main aspect of great customer experiences. So Aditi, within your business, I would like for you to just expand on how are customer insights captured and how are they being used to drive business growth?
Sure. Thanks, Crystal. I think it's been a real journey for me also to understand, because I've been in brands and marketing all my while, and now I'm in media. So interestingly, what the Denso Group has done is they've actually taken data-driven marketing to the core, and they've employed a lot of tools which actually help us understand the customers at different touch points. Because ultimately, it's all about the offline or the online, understanding where the customer is, which touch point would help or would be the most optimized mix for them, right? So we've used a lot of databases that we have. So we use our databases to understand which audience segments would be most would be the best to target. We have a lot of for the out of home, I believe we have some proprietary databases. We have hyperlocal targeting. So that's a lot of tools at the back end which help us understand the data, which then we can populate the customer journey map with. We also, I mean, for us, it's also about the client, right? So a lot of times we do have to depend on a lot of client data and how much the client can. I think that's the critical part which clients don't understand very often, is the importance of primary research in doing a customer journey map, right? So that's something that I see companies making the move to understand that now. What happens more often than not is you're taking research from them, which they've done in different pieces. It's all in silos. Something is on triggers, something is on usage and attitudes, and then we're trying to fit it back into the customer journey map. So at Kara India, we've actually got a designing for people, and within that, we have a big section about defining the jobs to be done through media and how we should do it. And at the backbone of that, we actually have this customer journey map. And it's really been challenging for us also to try to get the data from the clients, use all of our data, put it on the entire touch points, and keep going back to them and saying that, it's important you do this. Don't just use your existing data. This customer experience management is not going to happen by just putting different things together. It's going to happen if you think you need the data at the different touch points, the way the customer journey is. You can't put together different silos of information and hope that it all will look like one seamless picture.
Perfect. Thanks, Aditi. And before moving on to our next question, I would love to hear from the audience. What do you think makes a great customer experience? We've talked about leadership. What also, in your opinion, what makes a great leader? So we'd love to be able to read some of your comments. And as well, if you have questions, please feel free to use the commentary section and submit those today. I'll continue on with Allison while we're waiting for some of the comments to come in. So Allison, in addition to customer insights, one of the key things we've talked about in addition to listening is also having empathy. Empathy really leads to creating an emotional connection with our customers. So from your opinion, Allison, how do you connect and deliver on that emotional experience?
Well, I couldn't agree more. And certainly as a public library, it's really critical that we represent our communities and we serve our communities. We had all of our managers read outside in to start developing the language around, I need to think about your experience, not about myself and how I organize work based on my need, but yours. We spent a lot of time on that. We trained all of our employees on this idea of customer first and how do we think through that. One thing I would particularly want to talk about is how we've done it through design. Most people think about a library as a big brick entity And building these new buildings, we have made them of glass so that I, in a community, can see what's happening in there. I can see there's a place for me. And then as soon as you come in, we carefully curate what that experience is like. We don't have people sitting down. We have people standing whose sole job is to welcome you and make you feel that this is for you. And all of those steps have been really deliberately curated so that there's a sense of welcome. We actually did, I'll tell you very quickly here, we did a list of qualities that we thought we wanted to really drill down. And our staff were really thinking, well, our professionalism is what's really most important. When we took that same list of words and asked our customers, welcoming and approachable were the top words. So we really focused on those, because once you get in the door and you feel that, then the professional comes into play. But until you feel like I belong here, and we are in so many communities that are in such dire need, and it's so hard to reach out and to be able to feel the moment I walk in that I'm respected, that I'm welcome, I'm not judged, is something that is the essence of what empathy is all about. So our staff have done just such a remarkable job of kind of moving away from dealing with the objects in a library, the books and so forth, to dealing with that emotional experience for our customers. It's been over the last several years, and it's just, our people have done such extraordinary work.
Perfect. Thank you. I know we just got a question from the audience that I'd like to address now. And Olga, if you wouldn't mind, can you address this? Patty from would like to know, can you talk about the role of emotional intelligence when it comes to customer experience? Women typically have an edge in this over men. So what are your thoughts on this?
Definitely. So I think EQ is very, very important, and women are great at this. So they really can pick up signals, they can pick up sort of sensors and understand conversations and cues and so on and so forth. The dilemma is the perception of women in the workplace. So if you're overly assertive, or if you are stern, or if you deal with certain situations in a certain way, you are perceived as very bossy. So especially in certain regions of the world. So women sort of resort to using their EQ to manipulate the system, or try to network differently, or create connections. This is what I find myself basically doing. So basically, you're creating your own credibility and you're building your own brand within the organization, so that they become convinced in you as a woman leader, and then you can use your EQ to navigate those situations. So it's a very interconnected question of what are your capabilities versus what's the perception of you within the organization, if that makes sense.
Nice. Thank you, Olga.
Can I just add, that was brilliant, Olga. You just said that so magnificently. And I think that is a struggle that kind of continues us to sublimate ourselves in order to be able to navigate what we need to get done. That was really well said.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd like to just turn a moment here to just talk about some additional topics. These are what we call, what are we afraid to say out loud oftentimes, especially as women in CX leadership? And so the first one, we talked about having men as our previous roles, having men as our leaders within our CX realms. And so one of the things that I want to talk about, and Stacy, I'll start with you on this, is really, men play a huge role as far as being advocates for women in the workplace. And so we really want to understand more. So how can men better support women in the organization? And I'll actually like to open it up instead of just Stacy. If I could get some comments from the audience listening today to get your thoughts on this topic as well.
Yeah, I mean, men, let's just say all human beings, we all need to support each other. And it is, there are a lot of men who really elevated me. And I'll say that there's plenty of room at the top. And I have to say that I believe that we all need to boost each other, help each other, man, female, doesn't matter. What I don't like is if I'm in a room and let's say a man will curse and then they'll say, "Oh, sorry," to me. I it makes me mad because don't say sorry. That's actually what then makes me mad. It's not the cursing. You should come to my house. You'll hear a lot of it. So it's those tiny things that really is what creates that emotion and creates that separation. So treat each other every day the same. And if you feel like if cursing's not the right thing to do in your mind, then just don't do it in front of certain people and not other, and then apologize for it. So I hope that makes sense. It's one tiny example, but don't,
I
yeah.
think it's a brilliant one. No, I would like to say,
Absolutely.
Stacey, and I really had not thought of it the way you said it, but that's so true. This happens with all of us, and not just in a corporate situation. I think even in personal situations, it happens with us more often than not. That when men curse, they immediately look at around the room that, okay, there are females, let's apologize. But I never thought that that's something that we should call out and feel that, okay, this is actually stereotyping women in a way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, great example, Stacy, and great food for thought.
Crystal, here's something we don't talk about, which is that women still don't get paid at the same rate as men.
Very true.
Women in the US have made just the most pathetic incremental progress nonetheless. But in this day, and that's why I just love that Aditi's daughter's dancing on the back behind her, because we are human beings. And until we embrace that we are complex human beings that we bring to the workplace, we're going to continue this inequity between those in the power at the top who are making more financially than we are. It's a denigration of all the complexity that women manage in their workforce. And, it's not men bashing, because my CEO's a guy and he has really supported me. So it's not that, but it's the structure that allows that inequity to continue. And the importance of childcare, for heaven's sakes, you need roads to drive to work. You need childcare to work. And we're so far behind in that.
Absolutely. No, couldn't agree with you more, Allison. Especially I've noticed, with the pandemic, the importance of childcare, especially as a mom. I'm a mother with 2 young children, and how critical it is in order for me to be successful. So there are definitely several obstacles we all face within our career journeys. I'd like to turn it over to Olga again. One thing we want to do, we acknowledge several women today that have helped us along the way. But as women, oftentimes we do not promote our own success and strengths and our accomplishments. So what advice would you have for a woman to really recognize and promote herself moving forward as her career journey?
That's a great question. So I would say focus on building your own personal brand, understanding your own strengths and your own. So what is your why? What is your where does your own sense of accomplishment come from, and how can you push for that? So I would say, because you don't want to be only associated with a job, and you don't want to associate your own value only with the job that you do. So you want to understand who you are as a human being. What is your wellness objective? What is your career objective, even beyond your current role? And then how do you want to promote, or how do you want to talk about your accomplishments? And with then comes, of course, a lot of the warring, I call them the warring factions, and the territorial and the politics within the organizations. And that's when you want to sort of decide where they want to fight, basically, and where they want to ride the wave and just sit in the shadows and relax and just see how it plays out. So you want to know, how do you connect that? How do you play the game? How do you show that you're one of the players in a way, so that it doesn't become a distinction that because you're a woman, you are doing this in a way that's different than men. I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. Thank you, Olga. I know when we think about our careers, oftentimes we've been told we need a mentor in order to really help us in advancing our career and teaching us those skill sets as far as understanding the politics, understanding the culture, so we can move forward and move ahead. And so it's an interesting concept when you think about, I know for me, one of the first things I've always been taught within entering any role is find a mentor. However, I've been reading more recently, and it's really not about a mentor, but it's really having that sponsor, especially when it comes to leadership roles. And I know, Aditi, you and I have discussed this. So I wanted to know quickly from you, Aditi, what is the difference between having that mentor versus a sponsor?
No, I think this is a topic which I've seen happen with me personally over the years. And I think even now I see it happening. I think the mentor-mentee relationship has changed dramatically. There was a time, and I think the workspace has changed so much, people have changed so much, category and cultural trends have changed so much. But when I was working, I was actually looking for a mentor. And I knew what I wanted in a mentor. I wanted someone to sit me through, take my thoughts, structure my thoughts, tell me how to put it, present it, and so on. And I think it was lucky I had that. And I think it was the last at least that lasted for me for quite some time when I saw that bosses or managers would actually pick people to mentor. They would take out time. But I think over the years, what I've seen is that as, of course, the pandemic and whatever, businesses have changed, transformation has happened. Companies are running, it's almost like a rat race is running among the companies itself. The time commitment that a mentor can give you now is really limited. You really have to be a mentee first in your own mind, that yes, I want to go up to this person and I want him to help me. And that's where I think it changes from a mentor mentee role to a sponsorship role. So it's like I am there and I'm taking the leadership for something, I'm taking insights from someone. That person is just sponsoring me, that person is helping me structure my thoughts. But I think now that expectation of sitting and structure, actually showing you the process, that's changed. You will have to, I think we or whoever wants a mentor will have to go up there, find your sponsors. It's not going to happen the other way around, that people start looking around, okay, I'll mentor this person, I'll invest in that. The pace of work has changed dramatically. I think corporate places in today's times, they don't have time for the mentor mentee relationship. You'll have to find your own sponsor. That's what I feel. That's also been my experience.
Great, very great advice, Aditi. I know we're coming to the close of the event, and I definitely want to add some more questions in. For if anyone has any questions, please submit them at this time. But as we think about how the workforce is really changing, especially after COVID, what advice would you give to a woman who's really starting or looking for a leadership position in customer experience? So I want to start with Olga, and then if everyone can also chime in.
Thank you for that. I think the best advice, and this is basically advice I would give myself 4 or 5 years back, is you are enough. You want to create your own narrative and you want to forge your path. So you want to really learn, experiment, push the boundaries. And end of the day, it is what it is, and you've given it your best shot. So don't be afraid to venture out of your comfort zone just because you're thinking of scenarios of this will work or won't work. So just keep on pushing through, and because each path is different, and you won't know if you don't knock that door. You have 0% of opening it, but if you knock it, there's a 50%. So the chances of success will go up incrementally.
Thank you, Olga. Aditi, any advice that you would like to share?
Yes, and there's an interesting question, I think, from Patty. I think the biggest thing right now in customer experience is human touch versus automation. How much of your customer journey should you actually have automated, and how much of it should be human touch? I think one direction there, which I think has worked, is the whole evolution of voice technology. At least in India, it's been a game changer, because now you can actually, even if you're on a phone and you're on an app, you've actually got vernacular coming in. It can be in your regional language. So that's, I think, one place where that human touch has got added with the help of technology. but it really has to depend on different brands, different categories. I don't think you can automate it completely. A very large part of our consumer segment still wants that human touch. And like we've all been spoken about, it's ultimately about empathy, right? And empathy for your consumers. So while it's very tempting to go for digital transformation, to automate everything, but I still think consumers need some hand holding. They're looking for advice, they're looking for some kind of connect, a face behind that. So my advice is choose carefully, figure out the touch points which you can automate, figure out the touch points which can nicely do this bridge of human touch and technology, which is where I think the use of voice technology sits.
Thank you, Aditi. Amazing, amazing answer. Stacy, I'd like to hear from your thoughts and future advice, especially based on all the conversations we've had today on customer experience and great leaders. What advice would you give?
I'd say advocate for what you need. I'm finding the customer experience field the kindest group of people I've ever met in any field I've been. And so if you reach out and ask for help or guidance or friendships or mentorship or how-to tips, we're a kind group of people. So people who are not in the field, just know that we're all really willing to help. It's just the nature of the job, the role, and the passion.
Absolutely. I second that. I know everyone I've met within customer experience has truly been some of the nicest, most caring, empathetic people that I've ever worked with. Lastly, I would like to turn it over to you, Allison. What advice would you like to share today?
Well, it's hard to follow the advice that's already been given because it's really quite poignant. But I always think to myself is just be brave, because the world is so big. There's so many opportunities. And really, it's only yourself holding yourself back at the end. And if you find yourself in a situation that's really untenable, you have it in your power to make change. Be brave and don't doubt yourself. That's your worst enemy, is doubt of yourself. So be brave and just go grab it and get it. Oh, Crystal, you're muted.
Wonderful advice from all of you. Thank you, Allison. I guess that's another piece of advice you could all have. Make sure you're off mute when you're talking, especially now in this virtual environment that we're all in. So, Gabe, I would like to turn it over to you before closing out.
I'm on mute as well. Just wanted to say thank you all for convening this discussion, for being a part of this discussion. I've just been reflecting myself as you've been talking. One thing, Aditi, I'll want all of you to know, I will swear and curse in front of men and women. So that was a great takeaway for me, that on the right track there. And I also wanted to share, Aditi, your daughter is really, you all are shining stars, and your daughter is the brightest among them, because we've got audience comments. Lama says, how cute is your daughter, Aditi? Laura said, plus your happy daughter in the background just made my day. So make sure that
She's
she
part
knows.
of all my calls. She's part of all my calls. She's there every day, every time. Everyone can hear her. The minute I start my call, the first question is, can I have your phone? Everyone knows that Aditi's daughter will be there in the call.
She is bringing joy to people all around the world today.
Great.
So thank you all for your leadership, for your willingness to have this conversation and celebrate International Women's Day. Appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Crystal.
So much for this. Thank you, Crystal and Gabe. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
everyone. And if you're watching us today, you want to hear more conversations, we hope that you will join us for our next live event, which is taking place next Tuesday, March 16th at 5 p.m. We're going to have a conversation with some CX professionals in Latin America to talk about what's new in the region, what's the state of CX, what does the future look like. So if you're a practitioner in a Latin American country, or you're someone who is doing business with CX practitioners in Latin America, we hope you're going to join us next Tuesday at 5 p.m. But until then, we hope you have a fantastic rest of your International Women's Day, and we are looking forward to seeing you soon. Stay safe, everyone. Talk soon.